What's happening, folks? Back with another reaction, back with some more acid trance, and this is actually a request, and I don't often get requests for vintage mid-90s hard/acid trance, so when I saw someone comment on a reaction I did for an Acute Genius tune, which is one of the early names used by Kai Franz or Kai Tracid, and they asked for a reaction to Citric Acid by, make sure I have this right, Organic Tea. I was very surprised and eager to follow through on that. So yes, we're here to react to a tune called Citric Acid, which is one of those phrases that exist outside of the world of acid music, but thus lends itself perfectly to a title for a track with 303 based acid. And I don't know the year specifically, I want to say 95. I will check when I post the video and put it in the description, but if it's not 95, it's got to be at latest like 96 or 97, and I would guess more likely 95 or 96. It's on the German label Dose or Die. It is very much in that mid-90s, especially like German or continental European mid-90s acid trance style, meaning it's a bit faster, it's a bit wilder. Whereas something like Eve Records, Pablo Gargano, although he was from Italy, so thus continental Europe, but he had moved to the UK, and a lot of those releases are like 97, 98, and so on, and that just has a slightly different sound. So this is very much like mid-90s, high BPM acid trance, and yeah, it's wicked, it's driving, it has a serious sound to it. I'm not quite sure what to make of this mathematical expression over here, so maybe there's some hint in there. But yes, again, this is a release by an artist or maybe a duo, Organic Tea, and the track is called Citric Acid. Shout out to the person who suggested or requested this, and yes, it was a nice bit of a revelation because it's a record I hadn't thought about in a while, even though I have used it in some of my mixes. So let's hear it. This is Organic Tea and their track Citric Acid on the Dose or Die label, and though I don't know for sure, I'm going to say probably around 95. Deep churning bass line, that little almost like popping xylophone melody on top. These big sweeping like electronic waves. I think that skipped right there. Not much, but again, a lot of these records I have, they've got some wear, they've got some mileage. ride cymbal. Cyclone coming back. When it gets really high, that's that like slippery quality. Cheeky. I think you could use that as the last track in a set. I'm always wondering when I listen to tunes in this setting, because sometimes I'm just grabbing records when I'm doing a trance mix and it's, I'm finding ways to transition in and transition out. But when you listen to it as an independent piece of art, I still find myself doing that DJ thing where it's like, would this work well as a set opener? Because if it just starts with a kick and a hat, it's like, it feels like you could find something better to open a mix with, something a bit more atmospheric, especially if it's a trance mix. Techno, even hardcore, you could get away with it, but trance, whether acid, hard, or progressive, or Goa trance, psychedelic trance, it feels like there should be some atmospheric moment, ambient, down-tempo, or at least, even if it begins with a kick, have more than just the simple percussion scheme. And this one definitely starts that way, and that end, although a bit abrupt, it has that cheeky things begin to dismantle, and then just a little pop, 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 and then it's done. But yes, I do apologize. As I said, there were a few revolutions where you could hear a notable pop, and then I think it skipped briefly. I don't think it skipped any significant amount of time, maybe a few seconds in the track. But yes, I do believe at the end of that sequence where it was popping every time around, it jumped a little bit. Nevertheless, again, it's wild. It's funny to me because, there's acid trance that I think is more wicked than this, even a few years later, but something about that 94, 95 period there's a lot of hard trance slash acid trance where the BPM on default is just very high. And so even though I tend to mix fast tempo sets, I'm sort of an old school DJ, so I mix faster than a lot of trance or techno DJs in modern times. But even saying that, this tune's default speed is quite fast. And yes, I love the acid hurricanes. It's, this sort of dark maelstrom of acid that picks up. It already, the atmosphere of the tune with the bass line and with like the synth work, including those more meandering sort of like dark light waves that are flashing back and forth. Even that has a heavy, like dark atmospheric setting, but when the acid comes in, it makes it feel like you're in the center of a hurricane, but not in the eye, not where it's relatively calm. Like you're in the center of all the madness and you're seeing things fly around in the air, and the acid is like indicative of the high speed winds and the destruction. And then again, it evaporates. There's that middle section where it's just sort of those pops. You're kind of waiting to see what happens. Some of the atmosphere comes back, and then you hear the acid churning up again. So yeah, I love the darkness of the tune. I like the pace of the tune, and I like just the old school focus on acid, which is to say, some trance is like more hard trance, but it has a little bit of acid. And then there's some hard trance where you can say it is formally acid trance because the acid is the point. It's like the main part of the tune, and I think that is the case here. In any case, shout out to the Dose or Die label. I have a few tracks from them in my collection. Now that I have her off my lap, let me look up Organic Tea and see if I can get an indication of whether it's a duo, like for some reason I'm thinking, or if it is in fact a larger group. So Organic Tea, looks like it might just be one guy. Oh, are you kidding me? It's De Donatis? I did not know it was Tommaso De Donatis, who goes by many names, including De Donatis. But yes, also, DJ Tommaso, Formania, Harry Grum, Bonaparte, Bergie, DDT, Noise Factory, Jinx. Just many, Gad Fadget, many names. This guy is a legendary acid producer. I did not know this was a one-off alias, because it looks like this is the only track that was ever put out, and it's 94. So again, I knew it couldn't be too late, and it was even a year earlier than I was thinking. So yes, this is 1994, and this is very indicative of the acid-based hard trance that you would see here. And it's funny, a couple folks here are commenting. Okay, one person's commenting on the other tune, Simple Music, and then there's another person who commented about 6 years ago on Citric Acid, classic groove and 90s trance techno. I'm not sure I would use the techno name. To me, this is very much acid hard trance. But yes, apparently this is a one-off alias of De Donatis, a legendary acid and trance producer. So yes, shout out to the Dose or Die label, shout out to De Donatis, and shout out to this track, Citric Acid. And finally, shout out to the person who requested the track. Again, I get a lot of requests, and in some cases, like, oh, you should go through this band's catalog. And it's like, okay, I'm going through a lot. I'll try to put that on the to-do list and see if I can get to it. And sometimes it's for a specific track, but it's from an artist that I don't have any music from. But to get a request for a mid-90s acid trance tune was a very cool and exciting thing. So shout out to you. Let me know what you think of the tune, and I'll see you next time. Peace.